Listen closely, because this might be one of the most significant messages you hear this year. And that's not an exaggeration. There is a reason you clicked on this. There is a reason something inside you was drawn to this exact moment. A financial breakthrough from God is moving toward your life, but only if your heart is ready to receive it. And that is where many miss it. One of the greatest mistakes believers make is this. They pray for change, but live as if nothing will ever shift. They speak faith, but carry doubt within. They ask God for provision, but don't prepare for it. If that sounds like you, this is not a judgment. I've lived it too. I know what it feels like to live under pressure, to open your bank account and feel your chest tighten with anxiety. But hear this clearly. Your story is not ending here. This is the start of a new season. And if you turn away too soon, you may miss the very direction that positions you for what God is about to do. So stay with me. Pay attention. Don't treat this as just another message, because it isn't. This is your awakening, your confirmation, and a divine instruction being placed in your hands. But you need to remain until the end, because every part of this carries something important, something that can shift your mindset, break internal chains, and align your heart with what God is releasing. I've seen this happen. I've lived it. There was a time I felt completely stuck, financially empty, emotionally drained, and spiritually frustrated. I thought God had forgotten me. I thought I had missed my chance, that I wasn't worthy of more, but I was wrong. The truth was not that God was absent. It was that I was misaligned. My faith was inactive. My thinking was trapped in survival mode, while God was trying to lead me into abundance. And maybe that's exactly where you are right now. But you don't have to remain there. Something is shifting in the spiritual atmosphere. A breakthrough is forming. A new season is approaching. But understand this, it won't come because you sit still waiting for it. It will come when your heart opens, when your faith becomes active, and when your actions begin to align with God's direction. So don't scroll away, don't get distracted, don't let this moment pass you by. I'm not here to give empty encouragement or shallow promises. I'm here to walk through truth, rooted in Scripture, guided by faith, and grounded in transformation. Are you ready to receive it? Are you ready to see what you've been praying for begin to manifest? Then stay with me until the end, because if heaven is already moving, the real question is not whether something will happen. The question is whether you will recognize it when it does, or whether you will miss it because you were focused only on what is visible. There comes a moment in every believer's journey when God begins to open a new season and makes it clear, this is your time. But many miss it, not because God was silent, but because they weren't attentive to the signs. They were distracted by fear, by routine, by waiting for a perfect moment, while God was already working. Ecclesiastes 3:1 reminds us that everything has its season, and every purpose under heaven has its time. That includes your finances. That includes your breakthrough. That includes the dreams you thought were lost under disappointment and delay. They are not dead. They are waiting for their season. Right now, something new is unfolding. Isaiah 43:19 declares that God is doing a new thing, bringing it forth even now. The real question is, can you perceive it? Can you see beyond what is in front of you and recognize what God is shaping behind the scenes? Because spiritual alignment always comes before visible breakthrough. I'm being honest with you. There were moments when I had very little financially, but I felt something deeper happening. A quiet assurance that God was still at work, even when nothing made sense outwardly. And when I finally understood it, I realized I wasn't in a season of abandonment. I was in a season of preparation. Listen carefully, because what I'm about to say may feel like a turning point for you. You didn't arrive here by accident. Something in you responded to this moment for a reason, and I want you to understand this clearly. There is a shift happening in your life right now, but whether you step into it depends on your readiness to receive it. Many people miss their breakthrough not because it never comes, but because they are not aligned with it when it does. They pray for change while still living in expectation of delay. They speak trust, but internally carry anxiety and doubt. They ask for provision, but never prepare their heart for it. If that reflects your journey, this isn't condemnation, it's recognition. Many of us have been there, feeling the weight of financial pressure, staring at uncertainty, carrying quiet fear about tomorrow. But your story is not finished here. What you're experiencing is not the end. It's the transition into a new season. The real danger is leaving too soon, and missing the insight that could reshape your direction. Stay present. Pay attention. Don't treat this as casual content. Treat it as a moment of awakening, because what you need right now is not just encouragement, you need alignment. There are seasons in life where God begins to move in ways that are not immediately obvious. And if you're not spiritually aware, you can stand right in the middle of change and not recognize it. Scripture reminds us that everything has its appointed time. That includes your provision, your restoration, and the things you thought were lost. What feels delayed is not necessarily denied. It may simply be waiting for the right season to unfold. Right now, a new work is beginning. The question is not whether change is possible, but whether you can perceive it. Because many people are waiting for visible confirmation while God is already working in the unseen. And here is where the shift happens. Spiritual readiness always comes before physical evidence. There were times when I personally had very little and still sensed something deeper taking place, not in my circumstances, but in my spirit. A quiet awareness that things were not as stagnant as they appeared. Eventually, I realized I wasn't being abandoned. I was being prepared, and that may be where you are now. But preparation requires a response. Fear anchors you to what is temporary. Faith lifts you to what is eternal. If you keep measuring your life only by visible conditions, you will miss what God is shaping beyond them. Instead of obsessing over timing, focus on trust. Instead of asking only, "When will this change?" begin to anchor yourself in, "I trust the process even now." Because divine direction doesn't follow human schedules. It follows purpose. This is also where spiritual sensitivity becomes important. Not just asking for provision, but learning to hear guidance. Not just speaking prayers, but developing awareness. What God is bringing toward you will not always look like what you expect. And if your expectation is too rigid, you may overlook the very answer you've been waiting for. So this is a season to become attentive, to quiet unnecessary noise, to refocus your inner life, to seek clarity, not just answers. Because when you recognize you are standing in a shifting season, your posture changes. You stop living in panic about the wait and begin preparing for what is forming. This is not only about resources, it is about alignment, heart, mindset, and obedience coming into harmony. And when those things align, provision stops feeling distant and begins to feel directed. But let's be clear, awareness alone is not enough. Understanding the shift is not the same as stepping into it. Faith is what activates movement. Without it, nothing fully opens. Not because God is absent, but because faith is the way you respond to what He is doing. Faith is not optimism. It is confidence rooted in what God has already spoken, even when circumstances don't reflect it yet. It is choosing stability when everything around you feels uncertain. It is speaking truth when fear tries to dominate your thoughts. It is acting like trust is real before you see proof of it. And the reality is this: doubt quietly blocks what faith is meant to receive. Many people pray, but internally argue against their own prayers with fear-driven thinking. That internal conflict creates instability. Faith grows through what you consistently expose yourself to, what you listen to, what you repeat, what you meditate on. If your inner environment is full of worry, your perception becomes shaped by limitation. But when your mind is renewed by truth, your expectation begins to change. That is why what you declare matters. Not as a formula, but as a reorientation of your thinking. When you consistently align your thoughts with truth, your perspective begins to shift. Now, there is another principle that many struggle with: trust expressed through action. At some point, belief must move beyond thought and into behavior. Not recklessness, but obedience. Not pressure, but response. Because what you hold too tightly cannot be multiplied. There is a principle of release, of trusting enough to let go of control and allowing growth to take place beyond what you can manage alone. And that requires discernment, not emotion. You are not acting out of fear, but out of trust-led direction. God is not trying to reduce you. He is working through you to expand what your life can carry. And when trust leads action, something shifts internally. You begin to move differently. You begin to see differently. But there is another truth that must be understood clearly. Increase requires stewardship. What you cannot manage wisely cannot expand safely. Many people desire more, but ignore what they already have. Yet responsibility over small things is what prepares you for larger ones. If your current season feels chaotic, asking for more without growth in stewardship only multiplies instability. Order creates capacity, and capacity determines what you can sustain. Growth is not only about receiving, it is about becoming someone who can handle what comes next. So the real invitation here is transformation, not just provision. A shift in mindset, a shift in discipline, a shift in trust, a shift in how you live day to day. Because what is ahead is not just a change in circumstances, it is a change in identity. From fear-driven living to faith-led living. From survival thinking to stewardship thinking. From limitation to expansion. And when that internal shift happens, your external reality begins to respond in ways you didn't expect. Not instantly always, but inevitably. Because alignment always produces direction, and direction eventually produces fruit. Stay steady. Stay aware, and most importantly, stay aligned with truth as you move forward into what is forming ahead. If you cannot handle small amounts with care, you will not be entrusted with greater ones. And this is not punishment, it is protection. God is not delaying your blessing, He is developing your capacity. So here is the next instruction. Bring order into your life. Start paying attention to your finances. Track what comes in and what goes out. Pray over your decisions, even the small ones. Build structure with God involved, not just assumptions or habits. Invite God into your stewardship. Because stewardship is not only about money, it is about responsibility, discipline, and honoring God with every part of what you have been given. Even the smallest detail of your life reflects your level of trust. Proverbs 3:9-10 gives a clear principle. Honor the Lord with your wealth and with the first and best of everything you receive, and then abundance follows. God is not asking for leftovers, He is asking for priority. First attention, first commitment, first trust. When He is placed first, order begins to form in your life, and provision follows that order. But stewardship is bigger than budgeting or discipline. It also means purpose. You are not blessed just to accumulate. You are blessed to become a blessing. What you carry is meant to serve others, strengthen lives, and bring light into places of need. When your view of money shifts from possession to purpose, everything changes. You stop serving it, and you start directing it. You begin to see it as a tool, not a master, something to build with, not worship. Your resources are meant to flow, not stagnate. So ask yourself honestly, am I honoring God with what I already have? Am I ready for increase? Am I using what is in my hands to do good? Because when God sees faithful stewardship, He entrusts more. You have been learning to sow. You have been learning to align. Now comes expectation, but not passive waiting, active readiness. There comes a point where faith stops being preparation and becomes expectation. Not fragile hope, but confident trust. And that shift is happening now. Many people miss this moment. They do the spiritual steps, but remain mentally bound to fear and uncertainty. They still live in, what if nothing changes? Instead of, God is already moving. But you are being called into a different posture, a posture of expectancy. Begin declaring truth over your life daily. Not as repetition, but as alignment. Speak life over your future. Speak provision over your circumstances. Speak clarity over your mind until your inner world matches what you are believing for. Because what you consistently hear shapes what you consistently believe. When God is your shepherd and you follow His guidance, lack loses its authority over you. You stop chasing outcomes, and instead, you begin to walk in direction. But understand this. Breakthrough is not only external, it begins internally. Identity must shift before reality follows. You are not meant to live in fear-based survival. You are meant to live in awareness, trust, and purpose. And that requires you to see yourself differently, not as abandoned or overlooked, but as guided and provided for. This is not about ego or greed. It is about alignment with purpose, about expanding your thinking to match what God is capable of doing beyond your limitations. Expect more, not from selfish desire, but from spiritual confidence in what God can do. And remember this, you are not meant to be a container that holds blessing only for yourself. You are meant to be a channel through which blessing flows. What comes to you is also meant to pass through you. When increase arrives, it is not only for comfort, it is for impact, for generosity, for building, for lifting others. So your miracle is not the finish line. It is the beginning of influence, responsibility, and expansion. Live each day as if change has already begun. Think like someone who is already moving into increase. Speak like someone who is no longer bound by fear. And refuse to return to old patterns of limitation. Because a life of faith is not passive, it is active alignment with truth. Now pause for a moment and become aware of what is happening within you. Something has shifted, not because of words alone, but because truth has been stirring something deeper. There is a renewed awareness rising in you, a sense of clarity, a sense of return, a sense that you are not forgotten. And now, instead of only receiving, you respond. Bring your heart into surrender. Lay down anxiety. Release control. Give God your concerns, your uncertainty, your pressures, and your questions. And choose trust again. Admit where doubt has taken over. Release the mindset of lack. Step away from agreement with fear and return to faith, not as emotion, but as decision. Declare that your life is no longer governed by fear, but by trust, that you are stepping out of limitation and into alignment, that your future is not closed but open. Speak peace over your mind. Speak direction over your path. Speak provision over what you need, not as magic words, but as faith taking shape in speech and belief. And receive a new mindset. You are not forgotten, you are not overlooked, and you are not outside of purpose. You are held, guided, and being prepared. Let your heart settle in gratitude, not only for what has happened, but for what is unfolding. Because what is coming is not only change in circumstance, but change in identity, thinking, and direction. And from this place forward, you do not return to who you were before. You are sowing into a kingdom principle, placing seed into eternal ground. What you give becomes a flow of provision that can touch someone else in their moment of need. It becomes strength for the exhausted, hope for the discouraged, and direction for those who feel lost. Jesus said, "Give, and it will be given to you," and this is the moment being pointed to. This is an act of alignment in faith. What is released in trust is not lost. It is multiplied through grace, returning in ways that can bring increase, favor, and provision that reaches your life and your home. Don't remain distant or passive. Step into faith with intention and alignment. If you have prayed this and agree in your heart, take a moment to declare it boldly. I receive my financial breakthrough, not as uncertainty, not as wishful thinking, but as conviction. Let your faith be expressed clearly. Speak openly about what you are believing for, whether it is financial relief, unexpected provision, cancellation of debt, or wisdom for new opportunities. Bring it into words and stand in agreement with it. And if this message has impacted you, pass it on. There may be someone in your life who feels overwhelmed by financial pressure and needs encouragement right now. Your share could be the reminder that restores their hope. Let this space reflect faith, expectation, and renewed strength. What you declare is not meaningless. It shapes your mindset and strengthens your belief. Agreement carries power. When hearts align in faith and truth, it creates unity of expectation. So move forward with confidence. Speak what you believe, stand in hope, and walk in the assurance that your life is unfolding with purpose and direction. And as you continue, remain steady in faith, anchored in trust, and open to what is being formed ahead.